Good evening. My name is Stacey Bailey Njai, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of Bridge Kids International. And I'm so happy to be here today at the invitation of my dear friends at Kentucky Refugee Ministries as we celebrate World Refugee Day. And I'm here today with Mohammed, Chanel, Patrick, and Yamakumba. So I'm going to give them a moment to just please introduce yourself. Okay, so Mohammed.
My name is Mohammed Cairo. I'm with Catholic Charities of Louisville. I am originally from Somalia and was in a refugee camps in Kenya. I came to United States through Catholic Charities in Houston, Texas, then moved to Louisville, Kentucky. I'm here now. So I work with Catholic Charity as a case manager. Thank you.
We welcome you. Thanks for joining us. Chanel?
Hi, y'all. My name is Chanel Helm. I am the core lead organizer of Black Lives Matter Louisville and also the state consultant for Sister Song. Sister Song is the reproductive justice movement for Black and Brown folks for our individual and collective identity around health and reproductive rights. I'm also a community organizer and pay close attention to Black and Brown communities.
Thank you. All right, Patrick.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Litanga. I'm a case manager at Kentucky Refugee Ministries. I also do teach political science at Jefferson Community and College. I'm glad to participate here.
Thank you. And Yamakumba?
My name is Yamakumba Mbayo. I originate from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I've been living in Lexington, Kentucky for 13 years. Came here by way of Zimbabwe as a refugee. And I'm thankful to be a part of this conversation. And to add on to that, I work at BCTT, and I'm also involved in a few initiatives in the community, especially with soccer, so coaching youth and adults sometimes. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, why don't we get started? I mean, we all are aware, that these times have been difficult and hopeful and triumphant and a struggle, for the past few months. We know that struggle has been going on for years and generations. But I keep hearing over and over again, like this time feels different. So, how is this moment in your eyes, do you think, how's it been an awakening for people of African heritage?
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead, you go.
Yeah, I wanted to just say, especially for folks in the U.S. Who, and I'm trying to be careful with my words, but I think we all know, like, our identity is really still something that we vision for the future. And I think a lot of people are seeing that now, especially with everybody's attention, like on Juneteenth, really associating yourself with our ancestors and what they went through, and just that Juneteenth is really this thing around knowledge. If we're aware of our history and we know our history, and then we do better, the term that we always use in the Black community. And so right now it just feels, it feels like a few of those walls around like how we can build identity, and even, nation for ourselves is really coming to terms with some people here. But I also love how, a lot of the national leadership of the African continent came together and put out a call to the UN about the police terrorism that takes place here, and the covert ways that they try to maneuver, not only through Black and Brown communities, but through the government as well. So that really shocked me a bit, and can't wait for that dialogue too. And look at it, we're here talking now.
Yeah, I know that's the thing that one of the things that's most exciting for me. At Bridge Kids, we focus on building those relationships across Africa and the African diaspora, amongst other things, and really using our culture really as a tool to build community that for young people. And so for me, this is just all joy and light, this conversation. So any of the other, folks on the call, I mean, what about this moment? Because identity can be a tricky thing, right? And so here in the US, for folks who are more recent arrivals, to the United States and may not have that long history or even know the history of the African American experience in the US, this can be an eye opener, I'm sure. I don't know how, but tell me, like, what have people been talking about? What have you been noticing from the perspective of, African people of, actually born on the continent now living here?
I mean, from the recent diaspora folks with whom I've been conversing, it's both a sense of urgency and puzzlement. They are, some of them, many of them actually are really puzzled of the pertinence of the moment, because some of them are still building up to how to participate in how to become part of the society. And the Black struggle here has not really been part of their psyche, because in their mind, it was about, finding employment, becoming self-sufficient and all that. Now, all this is bringing some kind of urgency in their mind. And those with whom I'm having conversation, they are asking, why is it a riot? Why does this matter? Why is this important? Why? Because in their mind, when they arrived here, they were not really fully part of the system. They were just surviving. But now there is a sense of urgency where they begin to ask questions and they begin to ask how to participate.
This moment is a awakening moment for our recent refugees, arrivals, and immigrants, because in the past, when we talk about Black communities or refugees or other immigrants, majority of them didn't identify themselves or didn't know that they were Black, even though they are not born here. So with this recent happening, whereby the community and everyone united and coming together, so everyone knows that unity or unifying ourselves brings change. So that is a lot of folks that believe that they are not identifying themselves as Black now. They are coming back and saying that even though we are not from here, we identify ourselves as Black. So the cop or whoever is stopping or searching people will not know whether you are from here or whether you are from Africa. So they just go by your color. So coming back together and everyone identifying themselves based on their color. So that's a big awakening for the Black community, especially the immigrants.
Yeah. To add on to that, I can also say that from what I see also that technology has played a big part in what has happened and how it has manifested itself. And also to say that I see it as work that was laid out before even this moment today. This has been work that has been put into action before even like many years. I think this movement in itself is not a new movement, right? And I can say that technology has played a big part in it, that the world is really connected, more connected than it's ever been. And what happens somewhere can be related somewhere else. What I see speaking to people across, in other countries, they are also seeing similar issues in places that they may live, or see themselves in situations like the video that we saw of George Floyd. I think, to answer your question, technology has done a lot to make this movement what it is, and America and Black people in America are in a special position always, I think, to lead the African diaspora. And I'm speaking to that from newspapers that have gone out, that have been published by by Black people in America to the world, and what that effect is similar.
Yeah, I think one of the most heartening things I've seen is like what Chanel, spoke about is that people having folks in Africa to speak on our behalf. They're fighting and supporting with us because that doesn't always feel like the case, and so that to me, that feels like something new and it's so powerful. And I think it's healing in a lot of ways. But do you think people have been aware of what the circumstances have been in terms of the lives of African Americans and what African Americans have been dealing with?
I would say that they have been aware, but it was not their problem. So what was happening in their mind was like, that is an American reality. So, they have to deal with it. But now what you are seeing now, it is that an effort to connect what is happening in the US and what is happening in Africa with, colonization and post-coloniality. Those two are kind of coming together, and that's why you see the support. We go back to what, Malcolm X was talking when he was speaking about Lumumba, that what they are doing to Lumumba there in the Congo was what they were doing to them here. So that is where we begin to connect those two realities together. That's what I think.
To add to that, a lot of the points there are connected and are coming together because going back to the colonialism, so people are looking at it whereby it just started this way, whereby people were targeting a certain group and saying that they were marginalized because of their color, but now we are not there in the United States. That doesn't mean we are not part of it. So I'm getting a lot of calls from overseas saying, so we are united, we are together, and we are supporting you guys on this. So go for it. So that shows that regardless of where Black people are, so we are coming together and we are in it on this.
And also that I think that the system that we are in is similar. I think in some sense that there's that feeling of familiarity with like things that's happening. I think there's some comparison, although there's differences in a way that colonialism and like some issues that we may be dealing with post-colonialism are rooted in the same, I think, ideas as the issues that we are dealing with here. And also one thing that I've noticed that I can add to this is that everybody's talking about it. It's really the conversation in our community. It's the most important topic going on in my family at home. Like we discuss this topic a lot and trying to ponder on like solutions on like the different perspective, but it is a conversation that is going on throughout the world, I can say, and really we can feel it.
No, that's really good. I mean, and Chanel, just you've been organizing for a long time. What does that mean for you? To feel this kind of level of support on a global basis, especially among Africans and the rest of the diaspora.
Right. So I've been joking because it's a little bit too easy. I don't think anybody thought the revolution was going to be this bougie. It's like we have this magical Negro coupon all of a sudden. Discount codes everywhere. And, oh, you want to stay? I just negotiated getting $5,000 from Airbnb after I was thrown off for using it for emergency housing for people. So it's been exciting to see. It's like immediate justice in some spaces, but it's not enough justice, right? So we're still hungry. We're still looking for food, but we're also like, the land is poison. Can we even live here this long to grow the food so that we can eat? It's still a lot of that, like he said, that existential thought process around like, what does colonization have to do with us now and how we're living in it? And I think that's one of the hardest things to organize right now is the political education that it takes for Black Americans, folks who have been underneath this repression, and know the state for what it is. They know these officers, and that's something that we've been telling all these powers that be, including the corporate leaders who are upset and are ready to make concessions at any moment. And it can only come from this global uprising, right? But these kids aren't going to stop because they know what they've done to them. They know what they've done to their families. Some of their fathers and some of their mothers are missing because of this. And that's the global grief that we're watching. That solidarity and grieving is taking place. So I find joy in people wanting to heal people and knowing that they have a space to do that in. So we've been holding Healing Hour at 10 and then trying to make sure we send some type of love to the spaces where people have lost their lives. And while other people's names are trending, there are tons and tons of other folks who are not trending, who deserve justice as well, that have been taken by the state. But knowing in this diaspora that this is our duty to defend our people in this way, because it always has been. So we're going to keep being out there. And until, like folks really lift that up, there's going to be more and more leaders. Like, I love all the babies that are just like, we doing this, that, and the other. And it's just like, go, you know what I'm saying? Go and let's get it. Let's be safe, but let's go and let's get it. And even in the height of, they're going to arrest us, they're going to hurt us, people still got out there and they did it. We're still hearing about people who can't wait to go again, who got arrested. We have a few accomplices that have gotten arrested multiple times already now. So we're watching them go in and out, not only because they have the privilege to do it, haven't had to pay bail at all, while a few other people are like 10K and 5K. Watching this number of how much does it cost to buy a Black life in America.
Isn't that interesting?
You know what I'm saying? Out of the penal system. So that's where I'm exhausted at. We've been doing some heavy jail support security, just making sure people can be safe out here.
Yeah, I mean, I know this has got to be exhausting. But, one of the things that this reminds me of, though, like this particular moment, we look back at the Pan-African Congresses and those moments, that moment in history, even before a lot of African independence, where folks were coming together in the diaspora, and even those African leaders who were, being educated in the diaspora, living in the diaspora, and then went back and, then led in their home countries and all of that. I think that some of this kind of harkens back, to that time in history, because it required this conversation, right, between Africa and the diaspora. So I guess, and you can agree or disagree, with that, but, how do we use this time to strengthen this unity so that we can build from it? I mean, it has to do more than feel good. We've got to really harness this time. So, I mean, what do you think we can be doing locally, nationally, and globally?
I think having these conversations right here, that's something that I've lifted up with a lot of folks that do this work too. It starts right here, right? Just even teaching people how movement works and how these demands are not for us. We can talk about it, but these demands are not for us. We fundamentally have a moral core. Our opposition does not. And we have to make sure that they know that our opposition, regardless if they're a regular white person or a white cop or the white establishment, does not have a moral core to what it means to be African American, what it means to be a Black American or an African immigrant. They most certainly know what it means to be in opposition of that and to dismantle what we build, which is something which is soul, like you can't touch that. So having these conversations, and I love this, what we're doing right now really helps, because even in our community, there's still that, Africans don't like us. And it's like, that's a really large continent to just be like, everybody. And we're still having those conversations, and that's not true. So, and just breaking down the education, I'm sure people would be like, oh my gosh, just learning the political struggle and the political background that has taken place in each one of these countries and in the other countries, and why folks are here.
Yeah, I mean, what are some practical things we can do, you all, that like maybe, try to take this moment and harness, that some of that education we need to do across groups and all of that?
I think we need to find ways to encourage cross-group participation in many ways, in things that we do, because some of our communities, especially newer, African who are coming to the U.S., they still, as I said earlier, they still consider themselves as though they do not belong to the political conversation here. We have to come up with ways to, convince people like me, encourage them to participate so that we can begin to see and then identify ways we can, contribute to the society and also partake to the struggle.
The practical education that I think we can do is starting from families and community-wise, whereby each community will need to educate their community that we belong to one. So regardless of what you are or what country you come from, so we are all one community and we all belong to the same race. So no matter what country you come from, so we are still Africans. Our color doesn't change. It will still be the same color. So the education piece is the part that we need to talk about and teach, starting from our homes.
Yeah, I can also add to that and say, yes, education is a big part of it. To be able to be educated and to be prepared to face this world, to face this system that we live in, to understand what tools to provide tools to our people to be able to succeed in this tough environment. I think, and one of those is just knowing history. It's very important to know who oneself is. So there's different ways that we are doing that. And also maybe I can say that maybe there are already things that we are doing that are working. Okay? And we need to look at the things that we are doing or other people are doing that's working and learn from them, improve those, provide those same opportunities for other people. Also to where we shouldn't just waste energy on trying to see what else we can do, but also what we are doing already. But to also finish that point, I think economics, like we need to find ways to keep money in us, like in our communities. Like I was having a conversation with a friend and they were saying how long money stays in a community is very important. Once we work at Amazon, when I work at Amazon and I get paid the little bit that I get paid, trying to keep that money circulating in the community is a great idea. And also keeping people accountable, like these people that we are supporting, how are they accountable to the community to support the community back? So it's a relationship. I think if we can establish these relationships, we can be better off and be we can rely on ourselves a little bit more.
And I think, your point is, I think, so important because, and it starts with this sense of identity, though. Like, once we're clear that we're all connected, it broadens our population base. You know what I mean? Because if African Americans are just for African Americans, Africans are just for Africans, we're separate. But together, that's, there's a power in that. And when you talk about, the economic piece and the potential in that of folks working together and expanding our networks and all of that, that works economically and politically. And I understand that people who are very new arrivals have all the challenges that, Patrick, you were talking about just trying to, figure out how do I survive in this new country. But we have folks who have been here for a long time. And so I think it's time for us to come together. For those who have a foundation and are, have become more rooted here, we can be working together. I mean, I would love to be a part of and, help, lead some of that work, like just to set up some opportunities for us to be in conversation with each other. And we're Bridge Kids, we're doing some of that, already, and it would be great to expand that work. This is the time.
You do that. That African Heritage Festival, I think that brings together lots of folks. And I mean, like I said, we're in magical Negro season right now. We could have anything that we want. So we're thinking about going bigger. Hey, let's go take somebody's land real quick. That's just my personal preference. We work that. But we can expand this to however large, because the glue that's going to be able to bring us together is dating what culture is. And when, I don't know how, Kumbo, is that how you say it? Oh, yeah. When you state there's things we're already doing, it made me think about when I had went to South Africa, and everybody's there. It's like New York City for somewhat kind of because no, it's not. But in Cape Town, everybody was there, and we all were doing the same handshakes, and it was just oh, we got that. I didn't know we had it. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. So it was just interesting, just noticing what we already have on in that search for identity, in that connecting of the diaspora, what we already share, and the way that we suck our teeth. Let's just call it a thing. It's a thing we do. Mamas do it, aunties do it, everybody does it. The way we cook our food, I mean, in those small cultural things, but then also the way that the music, the way that we envelop each other in each other and still call each other family and still call each other kin. That's not something that I've seen in a few other places. And so I know that that's us. Even when we go to the Caribbean, I know that that's us. And the way that we talk to each other, and even in Brazil. So I'm down too. I love it. And we've just been making all type of connections as we do this work across the globe for folks who are really about tearing down the systemic barriers for Black, African, and Indigenous folks of Afro descent. Yeah. You can say, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, definitely, without a doubt. And I think, I think we do have an opportunity here. I cannot believe it is 7:01. So it's almost time to end. This is a short conversation. But I hope, there are, if we can just go around maybe one more time, just really very briefly, what would be a first step that you would like to see, or next step that you would like to see in this direction, or something really practical that maybe we can do to get started?
The first step that I think we need to take on this is becoming an example or a role model for our youth and our children that are growing up. Because the point I'm using on that is I had American-born Black person who used to work with me, and I take her as a good example because she used to talk about the culture, she used to talk about the heritage and the history, so all the things, and she used to empower me about making sure don't let other people judge you. So that building emotionally, so that is a thing, because if you break a bone, so you can go to the doctor and you can heal from that. But if you are emotionally sick, then that is going to take a long time to heal on that. So emotionally building and talking to our folks about, okay, be proud of being Black, because there is a lot of people. So we have a whole continent that are Africans, that are Black, the same color as you. So that emotionally building and being proud of their color is something that we can start. That comes under the education piece too.
Absolutely.
What I'm going to say is this, that Africans who live in the U.S., those who have come here recently, have to realize that the struggle of the African American, their reality affect their lives directly. For example, my kids, when they will be arrested by the police, they will not be identified as Congolese, they will be African American. So I'm already in it. So what I need to be doing as a member of the Congolese community here is to see how I can connect Congolese communities to the African American struggles, how we can participate, how can we have representation in Black Lives Matters movement, how can we just become curious to know what's going on so that we can learn and maybe begin to bridge a little bit. And that is one of the few things that we can actually easily do.
I agree.
I can say that each person has different responsibilities as into what they will do as their first step, whether you are of African descent or you are of European descent, each person has their own responsibilities as to what the first step will be after this conversation or moving forward. But I can say that for us African immigrants, refugees, and African American, we need to we need a better relationship in terms of sharing our experiences and trying to find really what is there, our similarities. So this can be your neighbor, saying hi to your neighbor, trying to check in, to really, connect and be friends. I think we'll learn more and we'll build better relationships between the two.
The other thing that I will add that will be helpful that we work on is when it comes to voting and being in the offices. So that is a part that we need to work on, because there's a lot of us who may be a citizen, their voice are not heard. So going to the polls, that will be helpful. That way our voice will be heard. And if you are not on the table, so I like sitting over here talking about our heritage, our cultures, all these questions. I like about it, because if you don't talk about your history, no one will talk about you. So talking about it and being on the table, and we decide who we put in the offices too. That is helpful, our voice to be heard. So that is the thing that we need to start teaching our African brothers and sisters, that we need to get out there to the polls, and our voice needs to be heard, and we need to decide who we put to the offices. So that's one thing that we need to work on.
That's an excellent point. Excellent point. Well, I really, as far as Bridge Kids, we had some work that we've been doing for the past few years called Mending the Bridge. It's a group of Africans and African Americans working together, and we are even looking at some of actual practices from various groups in terms of what we can take that has worked for us, whether it's in Africa or African Americans here. How do we adapt that to our current reality? And so that we can develop some of our own solutions to our challenges in our communities. And I think this is a good moment to continue to, build on that work, as well. So I'll take some responsibility to try to get folks organized, and we'll organize another Zoom call, and let's get some more folks on the line, and let's get to work.
How about some actual themed out political education pieces too?
Mm-hmm.
They've named off some very important points. We can have those around culture. I like the events around culture, because you got to dance and shit. I mean, stuff. I didn't mean to curse.
Yeah, no, that's all right. You're right. We all heard it before.
But yeah,
it's true. But you're right. We need some joy. Don't we need some joy?
Yes,
we need some joy.
Games. And games.
That.
Me and my daughter love Mancala, and we just love puzzles. And I'm just I think about that too. What are we missing? Because all of that is closed off, and we know a lot of Western stuff, and then it has to be exotic if it's not Western. So what are some other things and other games and things that we can introduce our children into to just blend that bridge? Yeah, mend that bridge.
I mean, even having some family nights and, just fun stuff. Yeah, because that's how it starts. We have to learn to trust each other and get to know each other. you know, so I'm writing all this down.
Yeah. And to add on to that, since Gerald said we have as long as we want for the statements, the message. So I would say that also religious leaders are in a special position for those, many of us who are religious, many of our communities are religious communities. And religious leaders are in a very special position to lead our communities in a certain direction, intentionally. So to that, I think with what we are talking about, I think for example, the Congolese church here, I think the pastor has some responsibility to talk about these issues to the congregation as also a step to build that to bridge that gap.
That's good. And I think, you know, we just have to do that well. You know, I think we have to be very mindful and careful, but I think within communities, your point is very well taken, that religious leaders, and that's been the tradition here in the U.S. too, that folks have to sort of speak with that, you know, from that voice in order to build up the community. So I definitely agree with that. So I want to thank you all. This has been wonderful. I got a note that there's a couple of Patrick's poems that are going to be shared later on this evening. So we'll keep an eye out for that. So Mohammed, Chanel, Patrick, and Yamakumba, I just want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you to KRN. And we're happy to celebrate World Refugee Day in this way. I think it's very fitting, and I'm excited to step out and move forward from here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.